Hey, I'm Pete Deluski from the BMX Racing Group, and today we're going to go over the XLC line of wheels and how easy it is to convert the rear wheel, where it comes set up for V-brakes, into a disc brake with the use of a disc brake rotor adapter. And then on the front wheel, on the Pro sizes, you could convert the 3/8 or 10 millimeter front hub into a 20 millimeter hub with the additional purchase of a 20 millimeter adapter, as well as the additional purchase of the disc brake adapter. So let's jump right in and get to the rear wheel. Okay, so now we're going to show you how to convert the standard 3/8 or 10 millimeter front axle hub on the XLC Pro size in Pro 20 inch and Pro 24 from that 3/8 or 10 millimeter to a 20 millimeter setup. It's pretty simple, but there are a few things that you're going to have to take note, and you may want to take this to a bike shop. You only really need an 8 millimeter Allen key to remove the bolts out of the wheel. We also have a 5 millimeter Allen key here. In the very center of the 3/8 axle, 10 millimeter axle in the front of this, there is a keyhole for a 5 millimeter Allen key. So if you need to, if one of the bolts gets stuck or something, you put the Allen key inside the center of the axle, and that way you can hold the axle in place, because the front axle on the front hubs is a floating front axle. It just locks into place with the two cone washers. There's actually no way to tighten them up. So once you do that, you may need that. But to switch things over, you will need to tap the axle through. So we're actually going to use a hammer. Some people may have a press. Some people may want to do this at a bike shop just to let them do it. But basically we're going to tap the axle through. So we're not going to show you the hammer, but you'll see it in a little bit. Okay, obviously the first thing we're going to do is remove the two 8 millimeter bolts out of here. And then basically we're just going to take the wheel, and these are press fit on with with basically O-rings that hold these in place. So they might be a little bit difficult to remove, but they just slide off, and you see once they slide off, they're a little bit hard to do. But yeah, these basically just hold the front axle in place, and you remove them, and you can see there's no adjustments here. So from here, what we're going to need to do realistically is unpress the bearing that's been pressed into the hub. Since you're really only going to probably be converting this once or twice, it's not a big issue, but you really want to pay proper attention to make sure you're doing it straight. Make sure if you touch the wheel at any level, when you have to you tap it out with the hammer, that you don't do anything that you could damage the wheel, bend the rim, scratch the rim up. So there's a few different ways to do it. Actually, one of the ways that I really like to do it was just put the bolt back in. And at that point, we're just going to tap this on the end with the hammer to remove the bearing. And there you go. That's how easy it is to switch over the front. As we said, the bearing needs to be pushed in nice and level and flat. You did see us use a big hammer to tap that out, so you want to be very gentle when you do it. And when you press it back in, you want to have something that fits the circumference of the bearing to make sure it presses in. Again, you could use anything that's flat, that fits over the bearing, that doesn't touch the hub to make it in. I'm sure there's a specific bearing tool that you can use as well. If you're going to do this at home, you can improvise. Otherwise, you can take it to a shop, have it done, but as you see, it barely took 2 or 3 minutes to switch the whole thing out. So that's how you convert the XLC front wheel in the Pro and the Pro Cruiser sizes and all three of the ranges from XS wheels from 3/8 to 20 millimeter. You can find these parts and the wheels at brgstore.com, or you can order them through your local dealer. Okay, so these are the items and the tools you will need to convert the XLC wheels from the V-brake traditional setup as it's set to put on the disc brake rotor adapter. So we're going to use a disc brake rotor adapter here shown from Shimano. We will have one offered from XS in the future. We are using a 120 millimeter 11 disc. And then for the tools, we're going to use an 8 millimeter Allen key to remove the bolts out of the wheel, a Shimano style rear cassette removal tool that removes the excess adapter that comes on the wheels, This one for the Shimano kit uses a T15 Torx wrench because you need to use the supplied bolts that come with the brake rotor adapter. And then we have an outboard bottom bracket tool that will secure the new piece in the brake adapter kit once you tighten the whole assembly onto your rear wheel. Okay, so first thing first, we're going to remove the 8mm Allen key bolt that holds the wheel in place. You'll see on these, they have a really nice long bolt, so if you have a deep chain tensioner or deep dropout, you have no issue with the length of the bolt having been secured into the frame. So you're going to remove this and the washer. Next up, you'll see here we have the cog removal adapter. So you take the cog removal key, just slide it in. It might be a little bit tighter. This one was, they come usually hand tight out of the box in case you want to do it. And just remove this bolt altogether. You'll also notice there's a spacer. So you remove the spacer, and then you'll see the adaptation area for the disc brake adapter. So in this case, we're using a Shimano SM RTA D05. We're also going to have an XS adapter available in the near future. So the adapter basically consists of this nice little CNC part that just has the ridges that basically just slides on. There's no specific way to put it on, but you just slide that on, and you can see now you have the iOS 6 bolt adapter that we're going to put on when we put on the 120 disc. You just take out the disc rotor, you place it on the adapter, line up the holes, and you must use the bolts that come with the adapter kit because they have a flat head on them. These ones happen to be a T15 Torx setup, so you put the 6 bolts in, torque them to spec, and then we'll move on to the next step. So next up with the Shimano system, you're going to put this included washer over it and set that over the heads of the bolts. Then you just drop on the new lock ring that came with the Shimano kit. And you're going to use a different tool on this one. You're going to use the same as the outboard bottom bracket to get this one fully tight. But there you go. That's how simple it is to convert the rear wheel to disc brake from V-brake on the XLC set of wheels. So the last step is to tighten this up. You just use the outboard bottom bracket tool. This one's a Holotech from Stahl. And you just clamp this down, and there you go. You have your disc brake adapted. You want to make sure that's nice and tight. You want to check that from time to time. But your setup of disc brake conversion is now done on the line of XLC wheels from XS Racing, brought to you by the BMX Racing Group.